to today's In Conversation with Dave Burton from QBH Solutions.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Good. So today we are talking about fear, aren't we? And fear's quite a big subject, so we're going to kind of condense it a little bit, and specifically looking at comfort zones in the context of small business owners, and kind of how do we look to step out of it, particularly in those areas that maybe we're avoiding or are not our favourite area maybe to be working on, or kind of the bit we like about our business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how we overcome those fears. So how, I guess you mentioned it's the sort of thing you kind of recognise, or, you know, when it just comes up. What sort of things have you kind of noticed or been present to?
I think with a lot of people I'm working with, there is a tendency to maybe freeze on things that are quite big, legislation or changes to requirements and rules and regulations, which actually it's almost like it's too big, we can't do it, we're not going to do it, it's too scary. All the way through, I suppose, to myself with some things that I don't particularly enjoy doing and can be quite scary as well. So, and maybe knowing where strengths and weaknesses are and trying to overcome them.
Yeah. What's the difference then between, because you said the stuff that's kind of we don't like doing as much. What's the difference between something that we're scared of versus something we just don't like doing? And maybe the crossovers.
That's a really good question. I have no idea. But
that's why we like these conversations, because they're
natural.
Right?
In conversation with / winging it. I think the difference, fear can freeze you. You know, you kind of know you've got to do this report or make that decision or whatever it might be, and you put it off and you go down the road of procrastination, potentially, that kind of stuff. Whereas sometimes things you don't like doing are just things you don't like doing because it's boring, or it's not engaging, or it's not making you money, or it's not exciting. Yeah. So maybe that's where the difference is.
Okay. So I guess with fear, something that you're scared of, maybe there's more of a potential impact.
Consequence, maybe.
A negative consequence, as opposed to maybe something we don't like doing is delaying a benefit that we could have got because we're not enjoying it as much. Or
absolutely, yeah. Back to that procrastination, if I can say it. I think for me, from my own experiences, for some of the people I'm lucky enough to work with, it's that kind of fear of getting things wrong, and maybe not getting it right, or getting it to a level of perceived rightness, if I can use that expression. So why bloody start? You know, let's not even think about it. Yeah. Which can be quite challenging. But maybe seeing the other side of that and seeing what the outcome of that is, the value that can give you. Yeah, a little bit of pain to start with, but out the other side, maybe there's the result, or the goal, or whatever it is that you want to achieve.
Is there a level of perfectionism in that as well, going, there's this big scary thing that I've got to do, I don't know where to start, and I will never get it right, rather than doing at least something?
Yeah.
And then you can learn what is and isn't the hard bit. Like, you know, I always remember with exams, it was start with what you do know, even if you just get your name down, and then come back to those things that are the hardest, because the process of doing it maybe allows you to learn more and understand better what is required in those areas where you're not as confident or familiar with it.
Yeah, definitely. Exams, that's a long time ago. Funnily enough, I was talking to some Year 10 students the other day about business-y stuff, which was great, but just walking back into the school brought on some fear for me. I tell you, these massive schools that they've got with all these hundreds of pupils, I know how the teachers know everybody's name. It's amazing. But yeah, it was definitely very, very scary. But actually, I thought there might be a little bit of knowledge or advice, God forbid, that they might find useful. But coming back to an exam, again, it is that this is quite scary and uncomfortable and horrible, but what comes out the other side of that? Perfectionism. I mean, the talk you guys did a couple of months ago, was really good. And it can, you know, if I'm not going to be perfect 100%, what's the point in starting? Yeah. And actually, no, that, you know, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Is there a little bit? So taking it back to this exam thing, and maybe this is where some of the perfectionism, fear, all this kind of stuff comes from. Maybe is this starting point of exam. And for me, an exam and the sort of thing that kind of, that personally I'd avoid, or kind of exactly like you're saying, is the things that often when it's very final. Do you get what I mean? Like, I struggle with stuff when it has to be, this is the last time you can do it, you can't change it, versus that stuff that's always evolving, versus, well, I guess that's the first point. Do you think that is that a thing?
I think so. I think it's very you, because you like to tweak and develop and try and cover everything, which is great. For me, sometimes it gets to a point where you think, oh, sod it, let's just get it done, and let's just hope for the best. Not in every area of my life, obviously, but equally. It can be so debilitating. Yeah.
Okay, so as a potential, with, I guess, looking at it from a growth mindset point of view, it's like you say, because I think that's very much the approach I try to take with things. Is maybe the opportunity in something like an exam or a form or this sort of thing, maybe not an exam, but some kind of document like that, is what have I got to learn by doing this process? Even if it's not the final one, but doing a draft, okay, this is out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So what can I learn about myself or my business by having to go through this? Like, I'm thinking about, when you have to do, put down a kind of accounts or things that are really hard, or, right, what are you going to deliver? Oh, God, I'm not sure how it works. Well, this is an opportunity to find out for yourself. Can we flip it on its head in that way and find learning? Or is the sort of things that you find people have the most fear about not really something to be learning on?
I mean, obviously the right thing to say is anything's flippable. You can see the positive in everything, and let's go hard or go home. It doesn't work like that, as we know, especially with things that genuinely create that gut-wrenching fear. I mean, I used to get it with forms. Like you said forms, and I chuckle because it's like application forms. Yeah. I could just about cope with name and address, but when it came to the more technical questions, why are you suitable for this role? Tell me how you're skilled, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, which is really good, and everybody should do that. But you really have to sort of think about it. But actually, maybe there is a strength there to think about it first. You haven't got to just dive straight in. You can read it and think about it and go away and reflect and then come back. And, there's ways to deal with it.
The what is finding out about this thing, going to how is it going to benefit my business? Because I think a lot of the time, when it comes to some forms and things that you've got to do for compliance, it's not making your business or your life any better, it's just you have to do it. But maybe going, where could this information benefit me? Like, if I don't have this information already and I should do it, is there a hole somewhere else that not is necessarily a bad thing, but could be optimized based on this new information that is in most cases put in place to help everything?
I think a really good example of that for me is pensions, auto-enrolment pensions. And I know I shouldn't say this being an HR consultant, but the thought of having to do all of that sort of stuff, actually, because it was quite complicated and I didn't have much time, and I know I needed to do it, and the deadline was approaching and all that sort of stuff, and I felt quite stupid. I felt quite small because I didn't know it. And I know they try and create these things to help everybody, but when they do that, I think they lose the fact it doesn't have anybody. But you sort of suck it up and you get on with it and you make your time to do it and you figure it out, and actually now it's quite easy and you need to do, and I didn't want to end up with a fine from Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, bastards, and from there. Yeah.
Okay. Is this where it comes down to? You said there that you felt quite. I can't remember your exact wordings, but you felt kind of stupid that you didn't know it.
Quite small, quite.
Yeah.
Intimidated by it.
Is that what it comes down to? I guess as we mature, as we set up a business, it's all about becoming an expert in the thing that we do. So we go down this route and we can become more, and there can be those challenges and you can be fearful of doing the next level of what you already do, but it's within your kind of remit, versus when you suddenly have to do an area of the business that you don't like doing or you don't know anything about, it takes you back to being, well, sometimes that kid that's told off in class because you don't know the answer.
Yes.
And do we just need to get over that because we run a business doesn't mean we have to have all the answers and have to know everything. You never know everything.
Yeah, definitely. It's another really good question. You're very good at this. I'm not sure it'd be so good if I was going the other way around, but going into that school analogy, people kind of come away from that. But I think you kind of default back to that naughty boy, that naughty girl, that naughty person that was made to feel intimidated in front of that. Although teachers now are lovely. I know them all. I've got some friends that are really good. I don't know them all teachers. I'm talking rubbish. But the teachers that I do know are lovely. And I'm not making that comment now. I'm sure you don't throw things at people and hit them over the head with things. But weakness... Where were we going? Yeah, weakness. Knowing where your strengths are in a business and knowing where your weaknesses are, I think, are quite useful. And being quite honest with yourself about it. I'm terrible at marketing and sticking to marketing schedules, which is why I use Jason Couch. He's really good. Other consultants are available, but he's really, really good at making me do the things that I don't do, just as I've got a really good accountant, just as I've got a good web guy, just as I've got blah 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 blah, these different services that people provide, so you can, number one, concentrate on what you're really good at, but also you're not wasting time on things that maybe you don't need to do. Maybe you can use somebody else to do it. We've just gone for, as a business, we've just gone for an award. I don't think we'll get it, but I dip my toe in there because it's award season. To apply for this, it's like kind of quite the best business in best small business awards, I think it is, or small awards. And we've gone for supply chain business because we help businesses get on the supply chain with the ISO stuff, which is great. But it made me think about who's in our supply chain. We consider ourselves to be a very small business or micro business. We're not by any stretch of the imagination that big yet, but actually we do put quite a bit into the local and national, in terms of some of the services that we take on and the products that we use. So I think, did I answer your question? I feel like I've not answered it.
Well, I tell you what I heard in you saying about, because we started off with this point of we avoid those things because it makes us feel small or takes us back to, I don't know the answer, and and kind of going, giving yourself a break that you don't have to know the answer, but also kind of in a small business capacity, delegating and working in partnership with other people who can help you. And maybe it's a specification point for anyone you work with is, or maybe it's a point of value that if you work for other people, is that to make them not feel stupid for the fact they don't know the answer. Like, they brought you in to help them with something they don't know, and to, that's why they brought you in, and that's how your business will work, because other people don't know the answer. But to make them not feel stupid for not knowing the answer, and supporting them going, you know what, it's fine not to, in the same way that a kind of a good teacher would go, it's fine, you don't know the answer. Okay, how can we help you find that, rather than, you got it wrong, because then people don't come forward the next time. They don't put their hand up and say, I don't know. There's always the kids that are naturally able to do that, and they don't care, and fair play to them. I was never able to do that. So you kind of try and create an environment where that's safe and comfortable for people to do it. But I don't think in this day and age, anybody, whether it's a consultant or somebody working on whatever it might be, I can't think of an example, should be patronising or making anybody feel small. There's no need to do it. It's not. It says more about the person that's doing it than it does about anybody else. Yeah, and I think that's it. There shouldn't be a need to, but I guess sometimes people do, because it's that feeling of, I need to prove my worth. You don't know that. Okay. And then that kind of old way of holding all the tools to yourself and not letting anyone in. Yeah, I like to call that, and I probably shouldn't, willy waving. Sorry. But okay, people do it, that's fine. Whatever issues they've got, or they're just naturally maybe gregarious in that way, that they want to stump, and maybe it's appropriate in some situations to make it very, very clear who's in charge of a situation. But again, there's ways to do it, and coming back to the original discussion, I suppose, is that by creating fear, engendering fear in people,
isn't necessarily the right way to do things anymore. In 2018, maybe in the 1980s it was.
Yeah, and I guess this kind of may take us on to another route, but this idea that a lot of advertising was always built on fear. You have to have this, otherwise you won't fit in, or you won't get this, or you have to buy our services, otherwise do you know what will happen if you don't, if you're not compliant? All bad things, rather than going. And so is it kind of sometimes the industry can do it to people? Yeah,
potentially. I think there is, I can only talk about my industry, and we're only a very small part of it, but there is a theme at the moment for people to be doing a lot of scaremongering around GDPR. I know we're all bored of that subject. You've got till May. But equally, there is a lot of scaremongering about it. And that's wrong. People are saying all sorts of things that aren't true about what will happen if you don't do this, that, and the next thing. And actually, that's not helpful, because that's kind of doing the opposite of what QBH is trying to do, what me and Angie are trying to do, which is to make it accessible to people. So maybe it isn't too scary. Maybe it is okay to do it. And it's okay to say, Dave, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's cool, because I don't know what I'm doing in some areas as well. But I don't think there's any excuse that there should be any justification anymore with the mechanisms and the tools that we've got to deliver and talk about and communicate the services that we offer to be scaremongering. Yeah. It's not right. It's not right. I mean, get off my horse, but I do feel quite strongly about it.
Yeah, definitely. Because as you said, it has the counter intuitive result of people not coming forward because they're so scared. And it's that kid in school who doesn't put his hand up because he's scared of getting told off because it's such a big deal, rather than going, you know what, it's okay. Okay. Yeah. So what can we do? I guess to try. We've explored it, and I guess it could be seen as we've not come in. It's not a super positive. Hey, let's all do this and this, but it's more just kind of going. It's okay. But what can be the steps that people can take if they've got that thing, like you said, in your gut that you're avoiding, but because you're scared, but you want to take those.
It's easy. I mean, I like to joke, do a bit of running and stuff, and I like to kind of go, suck it up, buttercup, that kind of thing. Go hard or go home, all those kind of things, and that's fine. But actually, I think for me, if I was brutally honest, on your video show, I would say actually just sort of reflecting on it a little bit, and maybe having suffered with anxiety on and off for when I was a lot younger. You come up with strategies to breathe through things and know what triggers are and all that kind of stuff. So if you're dealing with something that is uncomfortable, that is scary, is develop strategies to manage it so it doesn't become quite so big. And then let's take something like a form or an application form or something like that, something quite scary. Look at it, leave it out. Know it's there, but no, you've got to look at it. Just it's there. So the fear becomes less and less and less, and then maybe look at the first one and go, okay, no, fair enough, and then go away. And then subconscious, the brain's a fantastic thing. It inherently wants to help you, but you've got to let it help you. And you might be in the shower or whatever you do. I don't know. Other activities are available. It will come up out of nowhere and maybe give you an idea or something to help you. Yeah, but. But sometimes it is right to sit down and force yourself to do it and to go, right, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, I'm going to do 20% of this by the end of the day or whatever it is. Break it up. Maybe break it up and give yourself goals and treats and rewards for doing it as well. Yeah, that's always a carrot and a stick.
Just think about how good you're going to feel after you've done it and stress over that. Yeah. And you can stop moving that piece of paper, that form around the
putting it under
the
other
office.
Pieces of paper in the desk. The bin.
Absolutely, Dave. That's been awesome. Great chatting.
You too. Yeah. Thank you.
And we'll see you again next month.
Yes, you will.
See you later.